On stay, I had thought her care for me was out of love. It wasn't until I accidentally opened her notes app that I discovered she was faking illness, found me disgusting, called me poor, and mocked my incompetence, all while planning a trip abroad with Julian. At that moment, clutching the necklace I'd scrimped and saved for 3 months to buy, my heart completely sank. I never imagined that the Valentine surprise I had planned for Isabella would become the biggest blow of my life. It was a gloomy afternoon, and I had deliberately left work early, clutching the restaurant reservation and a bouquet of her favorite champagne roses. A light rain was falling, but my mood was exceptionally bright. 3 years into our marriage, our life had been modest but serene, and I had always considered myself a happy man, until, in the alley behind the Metropolitan Center, I saw her locked in a tight embrace with a man. The man was wearing scrubs and had a slender build. He leaned down to kiss Isabella's forehead, his movements gentle and intimate. I stood rooted to the spot, the roses I held having fallen to the ground unnoticed, soaked by the rain, their petals scattered. In that moment, my mind went blank, and the scene before me felt absurd, like a nightmare. But soon, I recognized the man, Julian. He was Julian, Isabella's college senior, and the unreachable crush she had mentioned countless times. I remembered Isabella saying that, when they were in college, Julian was the most brilliant talent at Metropolitan University Medical School. Now, he was the youngest associate physician at the Metropolitan Center, and I was just an ordinary sales associate, whose monthly salary barely covered the mortgage. Julian, Isabella's voice was soft and gentle, with a wheedling quality I had never heard before. Not today. My husband said he's coming home early. Julian chuckled softly. What? After all these years, you still can't break that habit? Don't call me Julian in front of me. It feels distant. What should I call you then? She leaned her head against his chest, her voice laced with a wheedling tone. Husband. I clenched my fists, my nails digging deep into my palms. The searing pain barely allowed me to maintain my composure. Rain trickled down my hair into my eyes, blurring my vision, but it couldn't wash away the scene before me. Let's go, get a room, Julian said, his arm around her shoulders. Didn't you say you missed me? Isabella pushed him away. No, really, not today, another time. Okay. All right then, Julian said, kissing the corner of her mouth. But seriously, when are you going to get a divorce? I am tired of waiting. Soon. Isabella tiptoed up to kiss him back. I am already thinking about it. Just give me a little more time. I turned and walked away, unwilling to listen any longer. After I got home, I opened my laptop and used Isabella's phone to sync accounts and log into her social media. The password was still our wedding anniversary. How ironic. As I scrolled through her chat logs with Julian, my heart slowly sank to rock bottom. It turned out they had started flirting a year ago, and it had already developed into a physical relationship. Every afternoon was their regular date. Just then, my best friend Liam sent me a message. Jude, you really need to see this. It was followed by a link to a video website. I clicked on it and felt as if I had fallen into an ice abyss. It was an explicit video site, and the main characters in the video were unmistakably my wife, Isabella, and Julian. There wasn't just one, but over a dozen videos, each with more than 100,000 likes. The earliest one had been posted half a year ago. The comments section was filled with lewd remarks, and some even tagged my account, saying, "Poor naive guy, being cuckolded looks pathetic." I slumped onto the sofa, my body turning cold. In our 3 years of marriage, I had scrimped and saved, enduring any hardship to give her a better life. But what about her? She was doing this to me behind my back. In that moment, my heart died. That night, Isabella came home very late, claiming she was working late. I forced myself to suppress my almost shattered emotions, asking nonchalantly, "Are you tired today?" She changed into her slippers, her voice gentle. "I am all right, just a little tired. There was an emergency at the Metropolitan Center today that held me up for a while." I noticed a distinct hickey on her neck. "Right," I chuckled. Dealing with emergencies alongside director must be exhausting. Her movements noticeably stiffened, but she quickly returned to normal. "What are you talking about? I didn't see Julian today." "Really?" I pulled the wilting roses from my pocket. "What a coincidence. Then, I went to pick you up at the Metropolitan Center today, and clearly saw you two at the back entrance." "Husband." She suddenly lunged at me, tears instantly streaming down her face. I am sorry. I am so sorry. I didn't mean to. I pushed her away. Just what? Just so infatuated with him that you didn't even use basic contraception, getting pregnant with his child and having 2 abortions, right? Her face turned ashen. How did you know? Did you think I was really that easy to fool? I sneered. Isabella, we've been married for 3 years, and you've been having an affair behind my back for a year, even filming videos and posting them online. Really something. No. She frantically waved her hands. He filmed the videos. I didn't know. I really didn't know he would post them online. I laughed silently. So what he's saying is, your betrayal is real, but you weren't aware of the videos being posted. Is that your defense? She froze, then broke down crying. Husband, please forgive me. I really know I was wrong. Julian, he tricked me, told me he loved me, said he wanted to be with me. I was completely infatuated. I watched her performance quietly, my heart completely numb. How much I had loved her once, but now, there wasn't even a ripple of emotion. Go take a shower, I said. I need some peace and quiet. She seemed to have been granted a reprieve, and practically ran into the bathroom. I opened her phone, and sure enough, found a string of numbers in her notes app, the room number for the Pines behind the Metropolitan Center. I took time off and staked out the Pines. Sure enough, at 3 in the afternoon, I saw Isabella and Julian enter the room, one after the other. I took out my phone, and photographed their intimate display. Then I heard Julian's triumphant voice drift from beneath the door. Don't worry, in a few months, once I get the head of department position, the Metropolitan Center will allocate housing to me, then you can divorce that broke loser, and move in with me. But, Isabella's hesitant voice came through, I am his wife, after all, isn't this a bit much? What's too much about it? Julian scoffed. You don't still have feelings for him, do you? A pauper whose monthly salary is barely over 10,000, is he even worthy of being with you? No, Isabella said wheedlingly. I am just worried. What if he refuses to divorce? That's simple enough, isn't it? Julian's voice carried a chilling undertone. Worst case, I'll find someone to teach him a lesson, and make him understand what's good for him. I clenched my fists, continuing to listen. Besides, isn't his apartment still not paid off? Julian continued, if he's smart, you'll get the property deed when he's not looking. Well, find a lawyer and figure out a way for him to leave empty-handed. Wouldn't that be too much? Too much? Julian laughed. Do you remember how he pursued you in college? He knew you liked me, yet he relentlessly pursued you. If I hadn't been pursuing my doctorate back then, it wouldn't have been his turn. I couldn't listen anymore and turned to leave. So, in her heart, I was just a pauper, a persistent backup plan, and what I had considered sweet memories, in her eyes, were seen like this. Over the next few days, I began a deeper investigation. First, Julian's identity. On the surface, he was brilliant and seemed like the most young and accomplished doctor at the Metropolitan Center, but in reality, he was a complete scumbag. I found his social media accounts, and discovered he had affairs with more than just my wife. His DMs were filled with all sorts of flirtatious conversations, with nurses from the Metropolitan Center and even his patients. What shocked me most was that he was already married. His wife was a gentle and virtuous woman, working as a teacher at the Sunshine Center. Their marriage looked very happy, with sweet photos all over their social media. This charlatan was pretending to be single to seduce my wife, while simultaneously flaunting his affection with his own wife at home. What was even more ridiculous was that Isabella was completely unaware. She naively believed that Julian truly loved her, and wanted to be with her. Every time I thought about this, I couldn't help but feel a surge of mockery. It turned out I wasn't the only one deceived in this illicit affair. During my investigation, I also discovered that Julian was soon to be exceptionally promoted to head of department at the Metropolitan Center and would be receiving an award at next month's annual awards gala. This news gave me an idea. Perhaps this was the perfect opportunity for my revenge. I began contacting Julian's other lovers, collecting evidence. Some, enraged by the truth, voluntarily provided intimate videos and photos of him. Others told me that Julian had forced them to have abortions, then abandoned them. Meanwhile, I was also secretly investigating Isabella. I discovered that over the past year, not only had she been having an affair behind my back, but she had also secretly transferred my savings to Julian. The account showed she had transferred nearly $200,000 in multiple transactions. This money included our shared marital assets, as well as funds I had saved from extra part-time jobs without her knowledge. I had originally intended to surprise her, planning to take her on an international trip this year, but she, on the other hand, had given it all directly to her lover, and having taken the money, bought himself a luxury watch and a luxury car. He told Isabella that he had earned it all through hard work, using these things to deceive her, making her believe he could truly give her the life she desired. I continued my deeper investigation and found that Julian was actually a complete fraud. He boasted about being young and accomplished, but in reality, he only became associate physician because he had connections with a certain executive at the Metropolitan Center, and behind his impressive credentials were shady dealings. Even his own wife had been conned by him using the same tactics. I compiled all this evidence into a folder, and then contacted several media outlets. They were very interested in this scandal, and agreed to expose the story at the appropriate time. Isabella had no idea she was walking on the edge of a cliff. She continued to meet Julian every day, pretending as if nothing had happened in front of me. She thought I had forgiven her, and became even more brazen. There was even one time I found a conversation between her and Julian on her phone. "My husband has been exceptionally kind to me lately. He doesn't seem angry at all. That's because he's stupid. Being cuckolded and still counting your money for you. Don't say that about him. He just loves me too much. Disgusting. Don't mention him in front of me. Once I become head of department, I'll move you in with me right away." Reading these conversations, I just found it laughable. I began to look forward to the annual awards gala, waiting to see them face public disgrace. On that day, I would make sure everyone saw them for who they truly were. As the date of the annual awards gala approached, my preparations entered their final stage. I found Julian's original wife, Sarah, a woman who appeared gentle and virtuous. When I showed her the evidence, her reaction was unexpected. "I've known for a long time," she said calmly, not a ripple on her face. "Julian was never as good as he seemed on the surface." "Then why didn't I say anything?" She smiled, her eyes suddenly sharpening. "I was waiting for an opportunity, one that could completely destroy him. Now, that opportunity has arrived. We reached an agreement to cooperate." She agreed to cooperate with me at the annual awards gala to bring Julian to public disgrace. At the same time, I was also secretly contacting those Julian had harmed. One of the nurses told me that Julian had once taken bribes from patients and falsified surgical records. "He didn't just take bribes," the nurse said with a trembling voice. "Last year, a patient almost died due to his negligence. To cover it up, he didn't hesitate to threaten everyone in the operating room, forcing us to falsify the records." I frowned. "Do you have evidence?" "Of course." She pulled a USB drive from a drawer. It contains the surveillance footage from that time, as well as recordings of him threatening us. I've kept them, just waiting for this day. As I collected more evidence, I discovered Julian's misdeeds were far more shocking than I had imagined. He not only manipulated women and took bribes, but also frequently used his position for personal gain. With his connections to the Metropolitan Center's executives, he had become virtually untouchable. Isabella, however, remained completely oblivious to all this, still lost in her fantasy of her unreachable crush. Every time she returned from meeting Julian, she couldn't hide the smile on her face. One evening, she actually came to me proactively to talk. "Husband, do you think I should change jobs? I didn't even look up from my phone. What's wrong? I just feel that working at the Metropolitan Center is too tiring," she said, cautiously observing my expression. "And the pay isn't great either." I sneered inwardly, knowing this was clearly a prelude to her living with Julian, but on the surface, I pretended to be concerned and said, "So, what kind of job are you thinking of changing to?" "I heard." She hesitated. "A new private hospital. The clinic opened near the Metropolitan Center. The benefits there are quite good." I knew that the clinic was the next place Julian's connections had set up for him. Once he became head of department, he could bring a group of people over, making it convenient for his illicit affair with Isabella. "You decide for yourself," I said indifferently. She seemed pleased with my reaction, and came closer, wheedling, "Be the best, husband." Looking at her affectionate demeanor, I just felt disgusted. This woman really did take me for a fool. A week before the annual awards gala, I arranged to meet Julian's original wife, Sarah. This time, we were finalizing the last action plan. I've prepared all the materials. she said, pulling a stack of photos from her bag. These are the proofs of him taking bribes, and also records of him tampering with medical files. I glanced at them. That's enough. But we need to find a way to make this as big a scandal as possible. Don't worry about that, she said, offering a meaningful smile. I've already contacted the media, and reporters will be there, and she lowered her voice. I also found a few family members of patients he had taken money from. They've been wanting to settle scores with him for a long time. I nodded. Excellent. One more thing. On your end. I understand, she interrupted me. I will make him face public disgrace, but no innocent people will be harmed. After all, we are civilized people. From her eyes, however, I read a different meaning, but I didn't point it out. Everyone has their own choices. On my way home, I received a call from an unknown number. It was a nurse from the Metropolitan Center, who said she had something important to tell me. After we met, she told me that Julian had recently been secretly contacting local thugs, apparently wanting to have me taught a lesson. I happened to be passing by when he and Chloe were in the office. The nurse said, I overheard them discussing how to make you divorce voluntarily. I sneered. He certainly has a good plan. Be careful, the nurse said, worried. He's ruthless. He'll do anything. I knew she was telling the truth. Julian, outwardly respectable, was in reality a complete scumbag. He would do anything to achieve his goals. But it didn't matter. I was waiting for him to make the first move. Sure enough, the next day after work, a few tattooed men blocked my way. Be smart. Divorce your wife quickly, the leader said, grabbing my collar, otherwise, you'll regret it. I smiled and pressed the record button on my phone. Julian sent you, didn't he? He paused, then snarled. What the F*** do you care who sent us? I remained calm. Fine, go ahead and hit me. I've got surveillance footage here, and the police station is just up ahead. They exchanged glances, seemingly not expecting me to play so unconventionally. Here's a piece of advice, I said, straightening my collar. Go back and tell Julian to leave some room for common ground. You never know when you meet again. Watching their disheartened backs as they left, I sneered. All this evidence would be put to good use at the annual awards gala. 3 days before the annual awards gala, Isabella suddenly told me she wanted to go on a trip, just the two of us. Let's go see the ocean, she said, looking at me with pleading eyes. Please. I knew she wanted to take me away to prevent me from attending the annual awards gala. Julian was good at everything except for being overly conceited, thinking he was foolproof. I am sorry. I feigned regret. My company has been too busy lately. I can't get away. Why don't you go by yourself? She immediately shook her head. Never mind then. Let's talk about it when you're free. That night, as I organized the evidence, I received a message from Sarah. He's been very pleased with himself lately, constantly preparing for the annual awards gala. I replied, just wait for the show. After that day, Isabella became very agitated. She checked her phone frequently, and her contact with Julian became even more constant. But every time I asked what was wrong, she said nothing. The night before the annual awards gala, she actually came to me proactively to talk. Husband, tell me, have I done a lot of things to wrong you? I put down my phone and looked at her. Why are you suddenly saying this? It's just, she hesitated. I've been feeling like I've wronged you lately. How about we start over? I sneered inwardly, but on the surface, I gently said, sure, why don't we go to the Metropolitan Center together tomorrow? I'd like to see your workplace too. Her face changed. Ah. Tomorrow. No, tomorrow I have to. What's wrong? I intentionally asked, is there something important happening? She bit her lip, stammering and unable to speak. Oh, right, I said, as if casually. I heard there's an annual awards gala at the Metropolitan Center tomorrow. Director from your department is apparently receiving an award. Her body visibly stiffened. Then she forced a smile. Is that so? I didn't know. Watching her panic, I just found it amusing. Even at this point, she was still pretending. On the day of the annual awards gala, the entire Metropolitan Center was bustling with activity. The venue was lavishly decorated, filled with flowers and balloons. Julian stood on stage in a suit, full of vigor. He was giving his acceptance speech, spouting grand words about medical ethics and saving lives. Thunderous applause erupted from the audience, and his wife, Sarah, sat in the front row, watching him gently. Isabella sat a few rows back, her head bowed, not daring to look at me. I sneered inwardly, waiting for the show to begin. Just then, a nurse rushed onto the stage and whispered something into the host's ear. The host's expression changed, and he then announced, "Next, a patient's family member would like to say a few words to director." Julian's expression stiffened for a moment, but he maintained his smile. But when he saw the person walking onto the stage, his face instantly turned pale. It was a middle-aged woman, whose son was the patient Julian had almost killed last year. "Director, do you remember my son?" she said. Her voice choked with tears. "The one you harmed with substandard medicine last year, causing him to be hospitalized for 6 months. A commotion immediately erupted in the audience. I glanced at Isabella. Her face was pale, and she was looking at the stage in disbelief. "This is just the beginning, darling. Just wait for the rest of the show." Soon, a second and third patient's family member also walked onto the stage. They revealed Julian's acts of taking bribes and tampering with medical records, one by one. The atmosphere in the venue immediately became tense. Just then, the projector screen suddenly lit up. It showed videos of Julian and Isabella, along with their chat logs. Following that were videos of him taking bribes, and recordings of him threatening nurses. "This isn't real." Julian finally panicked. "These are all fake." He looked at Isabella in the audience, wanting her to speak up for him, but was already slumped in her seat, trembling all over. At that moment, Sarah stood up. "My dear husband," she said with a smile, though her voice carried a chilling coldness. "You say these are fake, but what about these?" She took out her phone and played an audio recording. It was a conversation between Julian and someone else, discussing having my legs broken. "You?" Julian pointed at her, his voice trembling. "How do you have these? I've known you were a scumbag for a long time." Sarah sneered. "All these years, I've been collecting evidence, just waiting for today." The venue erupted into chaos. Reporters frantically snapped photos with their cameras, and security guards rushed in to try and control the scene, but were blocked by enraged patient families. Suddenly, a scream pierced through the uproar of the hall. Sarah, from somewhere, pulled out a paring knife, and plunged it straight into Julian's chest. In that instant, the entire hall fell into a deathly silence. Julian looked down at the knife in his chest in disbelief, blood slowly trailing down the handle. He opened his mouth but couldn't speak, collapsing directly to the ground. "Murder!" someone screamed, and the scene instantly devolved into a chaotic mess. Isabella screamed and rushed onto the stage. "Julian! Julian! Wake up!" She tried to throw herself onto Julian, but was stopped by the arriving security guards. Sarah remained in the posture of the attack, watching the convulsing Julian on the ground expressionlessly, without a hint of emotion in her eyes. "You crazy lunatic!" Isabella shrieked at Sarah. "Do you know what you've done?" Sarah turned her head, looking at her coldly. "Are you feeling sorry for your Julian?" "I am sorry. He was my husband. Now that I've killed my husband, what business is it of yours?" Isabella staggered back a few steps as if struck by lightning. She finally realized a cruel truth. Julian was a married man, and she was merely a shameless other woman. The sounds of ambulances and police cars grew louder. I stood still, watching it all unfold. To be honest, I hadn't expected Sarah to go this far, but on second thought, perhaps this was the best outcome. An hour later, news came from the Metropolitan Center. Julian had died from excessive blood loss. Resuscitation efforts were unsuccessful. When was taken away by the police. An eerie smile still lingered on her face. Before leaving, she looked at me and mouthed, "Thank you." The scandal and news of Julian's death quickly spread throughout the Metropolitan Center. Those he had harmed came forward to testify, and even some executives at the Metropolitan Center were implicated. For a time, everyone was on edge, fearing for themselves. As for Isabella, after learning that Julian was married, her mind nearly shattered. She slumped onto a bench in the hallway, trembling all over, muttering, "No, this can't be. He said he was going to marry me. He said." I walked up to her, looking down. "Now do you realize how pathetic you are?" She looked up, tears streaming down her cheeks. "Husband, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong. Too late," I sneered. "When you betrayed me, why didn't you think about a day like this?" Just then, her phone rang. It was her parents calling. It turned out those videos and chat logs had already been posted online. News of her infidelity had spread throughout her entire family. Her father's furious roar came from the other end of the phone. Isabella, have you no shame? Do you even know what you're doing? Dad, she cried, trying to explain. Don't call me Dad. Her father's voice trembled with rage. From today, you are no longer a daughter of the Lin family. Her phone fell to the ground with a sharp clatter. Isabella, like a broken puppet, collapsed onto the floor. I turned and walked away, not looking at her again. In the days that followed, Isabella seemed like a changed person. She was listless all day, constantly pointed at and whispered about at the Metropolitan Center. Colleagues she had once looked down upon now regarded her with contempt. She tried to win me back, crying every day at home and begging for my forgiveness. But my heart was numb. I found even looking at her disgusting. Husband, please give me one more chance. She knelt before me. I really know I was wrong. I'll never dare to do it again. I looked at her coldly. Were you this pitiful in front of Julian too? She shuddered, unable to speak. Soon, the divorce papers were placed before her. She looked at the terms, tears welling up and falling down her face. The house, the savings, you're not taking any of it. Why would I? I retorted. They were already mine. Why would I take advantage of you? She bit her lip and slowly lowered her head. It was then she realized that I had already investigated everything, including the money she had secretly transferred to Julian. Sign it, I said. Stop deluding yourself. She signed her name with a trembling hand. Just like that, our 3-year marriage came to an end. 6 months later, I saw Sarah's trial verdict in the newspaper, because it was a crime of passion, coupled with Julian's various misdeeds during his life. She was ultimately sentenced to 15 years. It was said that in court, she calmly accepted the verdict, showing no remorse whatsoever. As for Isabella, after she could no longer bear to stay at the Metropolitan Center, she chose to resign. She tried to apply for positions at other hospitals, but found she had already been branded. Those videos and scandals would haunt her forever. I heard she now works as a nurse at a small clinic, earning only a third of her previous salary. She keeps her head down every day, afraid to face anyone. This was probably karma. As for me, my life gradually returned to normal, without as a burden. I actually felt much lighter. A few days ago, the company promoted me to sales department manager. The new female colleague always showed me extra attention, but I no longer wanted to start another relationship. Sometimes I wonder, if it weren't for that unexpected encounter on Valentine's Day, would Isabella and I still be married? Would she still be pretending to be a virtuous wife and loving mother in front of me? But none of that matters anymore. My life has turned a new page, and she is destined to drown in the lies she wove for herself.